Blocking line screens is all about understanding time frames, how we use our time shares, and anything through square roots. Say communication lines of a box and set lines of high center interference. Let's add a zero line in position locations and indicate higher calculations. Add position lines of two track location line centers. The 0 point, two lines of direction and interference. Put 7 in sequence, lines of equals lines of 6 in set location. That is a clocking. All I did is add a box. That's a timeshare. Now, it's no different in a computer when you have timeshares and settings, sharing files and linking to a system. Travel point graphs communicates the settings of travel point graphs in communications. Line signals rotates the system location and data formations. Screen lines adaptation lines of surface opens all track location. Okay, so you're sharing timeshares in your clocking centers and all communication to its position of its program, and the line calculates instead of kilo mic. Right? So everybody knows what a trifactor is, right? When you go to the horse races, very powerful. Let's get indicate line interference. Set position location to 3, 7, and 8. All right. So you box 3. It's trifactor, right? So in that position, it doesn't matter what order it's in. If it's 3 here, let's say 7 is here, and let's say 8 is here, right? It's in box. That's a timeshare. Okay. If you put positions 8 there and the 7 here and 3 here, it's boxed. That's a timeshare. Okay. So if you ever been into horse races, as soon as you box it, it's a trifactor. Okay. You win either way, right? On the ticket, right? It triples the amount, which is amazing. Triple the amount. Hooah. Okay. So I'm just showing you how that works through timeshare and time square. Timeshare, time square, right? Time equals lines of share equals lines of square. Okay. Now I get a basic understanding how that works in set location. All right. Welcome, everyone. This is Journal AI. I hope you guys had a great weekend. We got a lot of communications coming to instructions. We have a test on line conditions on Friday. So we're going to go through evaluation and understand how to go through its results and set up calculation line screens. Getting direct lines of communication know exactly what's going on with your space and time and your system location, your body. All right, so we've got 2 line sequence here, species and calculations to the team. Track location lines, higher interference, setting positional levels, okay, and position tractions and correlation, right? So we get a backward 6 and a forward 6. Coordinate the panels, line position of programs. Now, direct lines are I-line cycles and high correlation setting. There's the intelligence. See? See the eyes? Intelligence looking this way, intelligence going this way. See the eye lines? That's line communicated to a system of travel and point graph calculations. There's the intelligence. So it's really interesting is how you get in the team and line communicates to species. Sets position of track lines. So time equals square root. It's complicated, guys. Very complicated, right? Now, the square root communicates lines of telepathy, telecommunication, telegraph, and teleweaving, code weaving, code activation, screen lines. Direct lines of correlation lines of high center interference. Interactions come into the line, setting line condition system, and 9 through traction. All right? 6 and 9, right? Time sequence line, time goes faster. So the body's going faster in time travel. Okay? That position lines of one center operational line system, square root, communication equals lines of center and track location, right? So the team is creating 6 and 9, the kaleidoscope. Position of track lines coordinate the system of a capsule, travel line to rotation surface as the body goes forward in time, but the mind is in balance. Its location is going slower in time. So that's time equals lines, square root over line communications and center operation and set calculations. The reflux is in communication lines of center operation and setting calculations, setting direct signal. Okay? Now with the species line, the body is slowing down in track location. And the position line is a high center interference. The 9 is in the matrix location, setting a travel. You see the sequence lines, correlation lines, calculation lines, screen interference. So the capsule is line signaling going back. in its application of the past. Past, all right? So past lines, sets lines of future line, and correlates and setting attractions. So the body, their platforms are going back, okay? And the position track lines and set locations and team line is going forward in platform. So I'm just trying to get you guys to understand how this all works through time equals lines of square roots and set location box equals lines of center operation. The flux communication lines at set lines communication line highest interference computates this location of flux. Again, through space and time, right? It's really interesting, species and team, right? Space and time through attractions, right? Bodies are going in positions going back, and the time is what? Time is slowing down, right? So if it's slowing down, space and modulators are going forward, right? Species are going forward in the mind, right? But their time sequence is slowing down. Okay, 6 lines of correlation puts them in the matrix. They're locked in signal into box main frame. Position of travel lines, points, lines of graph, and a 3-line communication lines of surface and tractions. Puts all levels of communication setting. Now, the line communications in all communications, the team line is in main frame. They're not in box frame. See, the thing is, the calculation of the species line is boxed in box frame and main frame, right? The team is out of box frame now, they're main frame. So they go forward in the body as time goes faster, but their mind is slowing down in set locations. That's how it all is in set location operation. Okay? All right. Synchronous between codes, line calculation setting is all about understanding how to use longitude and latitude and your coordinates and correlation setting and track location system. So let's get the clocking system going. Okay, the clocking center high interference. Now we're going to go in position of torical field. I'm going to show you exactly what it looks in correlation and clocking setting. Let's start with that correlation, right? So this clock lines communications, one arrow indicates this way in tractions in position lines of correlation set high interference. Now direct lines of correlation high calculation system. Now let's start off with the clock location setting inside creation of 1224 is outline connection, right? So the high correlation line is spinning in the rotation surface going forward in traction, okay? That's how it's set up in timeline sequence position of patterns. Now the connection of the flux is line communication setting across locations. Now direct lines correlation high interference has a communication line, screen lines, adaptation lines, and surface. That process communication of its clocking system in track locations, right? It's at locations. So that's basically how it's set up. The 12 clocking system and the 24 line screen, right? So in position of its location setting, right? This is the platform of the body, okay? Going through platforms, okay? All right. Now, you have to understand that there's a flux in everything in traction. So there's a flux going forward and a flux going back in track locations. Now, direct line calculation, the 24 is outline communication, right? Sets lines of correlation setting in position of matrix equals lines of flux. Communication lines, screen lines, high interference of 4 equals lines of 3 equals lines of 7, lines of 8 in traction. All right, so that directs line signal location of grounds, surface location system and travel. Now the communication line setting opens all the signals. Now in that rotations to its surface, the center core system with the flywheel, okay, is basically going back in time, slowing down the body, okay, the fluctuation screen lines of a 4-track location. Now, direct line signals line condition setting. The sun and the moon is line condition to its position to its operation surface that waits on signal and set location. Now, directing line communication setting is all about understanding the 12 clocking system, but the outline is a 24. Okay, 24 is out and calculation line condition setting and set calculations, right? So that puts lines of communication at 2 panels on left and right and left, right? 24, 24, 24 grounds. So they're in 24 grounds, 24 position lines of high calculation setting, going direct and redirect and calculation screen line adaptation. This is all through the species, right? Through a 12 clocking system. So they're going to higher levels of expansion now in the matrix. Their platform is line conditions of 24 line cycles and correlation lines of calculation setting. So getting in that communication system, in all track locations, they come in interdimensional line conditions of space, interdimensional, right? The space lines and modulation. The screen adaptation lines puts position lines of time shares, clock the system as square roots, puts all communications into the air. So in that track location line to its connection system, I'm just getting the species set up so you know exactly what's going on with their clocking settings, what's happening with them in provision, and its application to its matrix of the clocking system. Okay, so the flywheel, the track location is going back in position lines of all calculation setting, but the spinnaker line conditions setting to the routers and routers is going forward in track location, right? So that puts the mind going forward in track location to its setting, right? That's correlated to its future. But the flywheel in track location is position lines to its past in track location. Okay, that's how it's set up through species. Okay, so it's really interesting how it comes into its own flux through a 12 clocking setting, right? So the 12 clocking setting is expanding line communication. The 24 is the outline calculation setting. To get in a line communication setting, the activation lines to take the 12 over here and put that here, put the 24 here. Once you get an activations, and that goes lines of 48, 72, and 144 in set locations. This is all through the species, okay, through the future and its past. Okay, that's how it's set up. All through traction. Okay, makes sense, doesn't it? All right. Now, getting communications in the team line, screen line, adaptation line, surf. Let's go through the clocking system calculation settings of flux. So we've got a flux screen, center line interference of travel lines, 144, and center operation. All right. So your position lines, your body is going faster. Okay. Center core system, 3 correlation lines of grounds into magnetic highways and traction. Now, in direct line signals, 1 cross location, 1 center is its position of its now. That's the now, right? Now, you have to understand, it's really interesting. I'll get you into more detail. 1, 2, 3, 4, all right? 5. So we're in 5 central line condition setting. That puts position lines highest interference, travel point graph calculation setting. In that direct lines in position travel lines. Sun and the moon comes in, waiting on signal in position of future adaptation, right? So it's really interesting how to set up position of travel lines, how the team is going forward through the body, but the mind is in position of the now. That's the future of the now. Okay, it's pretty simple. But that's how it's set up. All right, and then position locations, you're in the 24-line cycle, 24-line cycle, 24-line cycle, and 24-line cycle in set location and habitation zone. So we have habitation zone, that's an inner cross, and then we have an outer cross location settings. So it's like an inner spectrum and an outer spectrum, inner realm, inner space, outer space, inner norm, outer norm, right? So it's about understanding the inner galaxy, the outer galaxy. Everything is in, everything is out. But the provision lines of the clocking system has its in and out, and its already now its own clocking system in positional levels of specification through time squared, time roots. So it's all about understanding your calculation system to understand how you're going forward in position and how the mind is going into the now. Okay. So that's the future of the now. Okay. With the team. All right. So you're in a 24, 24, 24, 24. That puts position locations to your block shares and data formation. Right. There's the data. Here comes the communication lines of the satellite and track location. Intra line high interference of sonar correlation. All right. That's the set lines of communication to a system, right? All right, so getting position, let's go through 2 clocking system. All right, let's go through 2 clocking, species and the team. All right, so getting that position, let's start with the center point. Each one has a center point, sets lines of communication system. So the team is in flux interactions in this way in calculations, right? So this is going forward, right? Right, that's ground level forward, right? And this is going in position locations and reduction, okay, which is basically going back and set locations, right? So this is the forward lines of pi in track location. And this is going back in time, but your platforms are going forward in track location, okay? But your connections of the now is in center of operation, right? So you're in the center core of operation, of expansion and setting. Okay, so I'm just trying to get you guys to understand how this works with the team and how it works with the species, all through clocking system, right? So you get a correlation line to highest interference, 6 modulation screens into position of 3, in position of 1 center location of 12 set locations, right? So you're going this way, creating a 6. Okay, creating a 6. There's the 6, right? Now, once you understand the full rotation, comes into spectrum of clocking setting of timeshare. That comes into automatically line communication of its 9, 6 and 9. There's the yin and yang, right? Then you come into the tether. There's the tether and set locations. There's the infinity 8 in settings. Now you already have your flywheel and traction, so it's much easier to go forward in position, knowing exactly going back when you want to, not when you always have to. Because you have to understand, you're going back in time. You're positioning your systems. You're actually going back in clockings of time, right? Even if you hit the center point in tractions, you're still going back in time. See, you're constantly going back in time, right? So I'm just trying to show you exactly how powerful it is, how the team has to be consciously aware of what they're doing as they're going forward in a direct line signal and positions going back in a forward system, right? So it's forward, back, back, forward now to infinity 8 of a platform that's going faster in track location of 144, starting provisions of 3 center core systems and Earth rotation. Okay, so the center operation here expands in the mind and creates lines of anomaly, a configuration of face recognition of future adaptation. Okay, so that's exactly showing you what's happening to you when you go forward, right? Forward is creating the 6 and back is creating the 9. The continuous flow has a continuous line. That's time share of square root in set location. So that puts the files going forward in setting. So you have to really understand what happens in track locations and set system. All right, so now we got the lines that are related to go on the species line correlations. Okay, with the species line in position of track lines. They also got their flux, but they got their 12 center in the center location, and they got the 24 in the outline connection setting. So the plasma screen line is a line communication that's open all through signals, location, and ether in calculation screen. Direct calculation line screen high interference has a habitation zone in an inhabitation zone in track location. Direct lines calculation lines of the center core system, but it's going this way in track location. Okay, so it's all about understanding if it expands, it goes in this signal in set location, right? And that's through pi interactions, right? So what you're doing is you're completing a pi going back in time. And if it goes back in time, it creates lines of anomaly, interdimensional space, square root, square pi, correlation line setting, back in time, position of forward in time, trackification lines equals lines of correlation setting, dementia, direct modification lines, live in the position of its future of its past equals lines of correlation and track lines, and set position calculation line condition setting, beta waves, communication line track interference, location is zero gravity. All right. So in that communication line setting, the platforms go back and the center core system lives the error and track location of space and time, right? So they go further back in the past and the clocking system slows down. Okay, it slows down. So this is interesting too, because the seconds, minutes, and hours also go back in time. They change. So it's from 0 and 59, 58, 57, 56, 55, 54, 52, 51, and 50. That's the position of the body now. The body's going back in time now, which is in real time in real mode. So the core traction in set lines of communication system and travel line settings, the actual platforms in position location is going in the future. All right. So the mind is speeding up. Mind equals lines of speed, acceleration, line communication setting to its awareness, to its VR system and traction. All right. So the space of time. Okay. Space is speeding up and time is slowing down. Okay. That's how it's set up. All right. Interesting, right? Through a 12 clocking system, but the 24 outline graph line, 24 outline, 12 inline. All right. So they're living a 12 clocking system going forward in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? So they're expanding more. So the body's slowing down, but their mind is speeding up of their space, right? So they're creating data highways back in time. They're living the air back in time, okay, through their set locations and settings and travels, okay? So that's how it's set up. All right. Understanding synchronicities and line communication setting of its clocking system, you have to really understand how this all works, how it modifies you in track locations and settings, okay? All right, so let's go through 20 line, set lines, high interference, and diameters. Line conditions equals lines of factor, and position to frag, and track location system and travel. All right, so it's complicated stuff, right? And this is, again, this is all clocking system through a binary. Binary is this way in kinetic high center interference, clocking this way in center correlation setting, and 3 waving panel interactions into a flux. Flux, 3, right? But remember, you can go through 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 set locations. All right, so that line's a high center interference, but the 20 here interactions sets lines equal lines of correlation lines, sets position its Merkaba, going above and below equals lines of correlation lines of track location. Now, it's interesting how you basically have the correlation lines of setting, right? 2 lines of high center interference sets position to its Merkaba and track location, okay? Signifies the correlation lines are going forward in line communication setting, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in track locations, right? Sets communication lines as flywheel and track locations, right? So time is speeding up in the body in position to its set location lines of its tunnels and its routes and its travels and data information. Okay, so it's going forward, right? But your mind is slowing down, which stays in the center operation of clocking. But you got a 3 provision here, okay? That's back in time, that's forward in time. You got a 3 line provision, so past, present, future now, through pi generation. Pi generation right here and a 3 track location. That's how it's set up in the clocking locations of the team, all right? All right. Understanding clocking line division is understanding your square roots and set locations. It's very powerful when you start recognizing all communication to its position of its program. So let's start off with a 22 line screen and position of 2 points. Let's add line size to interference. Wait till it gets to 15. That's going to change the 23 value and positions to 8 centers and track location, right? All right, so let's basically trifactor the box lines of 2, 2. Sets communications, all line communication, and bring it over time share in 2, 2 track location. So it's shift line anomaly and a jump start and time sequence in set location equals lines of 15 track locations into 2 and a 3 in flux capacitor. That's right, you change the 23 into a flux. That cords the track center interference, sets compressors and communication setting are going forward in track location. Directs calculate modified line center high interference, sets all communications. Calculation X2000 comes in and they dock their system and center operation and calculation screen. Face recognition, see? So it's really interesting how you get into the center core system. Now we change the lines of 2 and we change the lines of 3 in traction. That directs the signals in all modification line condition setting to its light bulb and track location. The operation cycle sets lines of communication. We have the 2, 2, 2 equals lines of correlation track interference, 1 line position all love calculation setting, 15 track lines high center interference in position to line condition square root in box frames and set location. Now directing lines of panels, correlate the calculation of its earth and clock line center line interference, platforms communication of 3 settings and travels, platforms going this way, platforms going this way, and platforms going this way in track location. Complicated stuff, right, with this team now, right? Center core system, the ground's going this way, power's going this way, and galaxies line shift lines and anomaly communications to your system, cloud lines going this way. This way, this way, this way. So you're creating a laser line, you're creating a grid line, you're creating a solar line, you're creating a sky grid, Skynet line, communication interference line, operation cycles, generate screen interference, space race confirmation cycles, generate this communication line and interference of copper line set locations, calculate modified in track location. All through correlation set interactions, right? All right. So this is highly advanced in technology and applications with your systems. So the more you get into line setting or clocking locations, it gets much easier to travel, right? In a 144 platform, knowing your body's going forward, okay, but your timeshares and your square roots in set position, okay, is going through a 6-line screen. It's creating a 6 and it's creating a 9. Once it creates that, it has a continuous force. So what it does, it puts everything all together, synchronized in one cycle, sending communication yin and yang in a tether that sets position of a continuous force that puts lines of communication setting to its compulsion. Now, the compulsion aligns its communication to its paradox that changes everything to its paradigm, its polar shift, and its pulsars of communication and mediation graphs. Sets all communication lines of going forward in a clocking system in your position of space and time, right? So space and time of clocking has to come in yin and yang. And you have to understand the process of creating the 6 and creating the 9, understanding the positions all over where the body goes forward and the mind goes slower in its time, right? Space and time is everything that you see in collaboration. So once you understand that, then you understand more lines of communication settings all through calculations. Now, the species in position of 12-line cycles has to really understand the matrix and how it works and all levels of correlation line conditions of betas and alpha. That puts everything back in timeline sequence into the body slowing down and their mind speeding up. That is the future of the past in set location. That's how it's set up. It's an anomaly, right? You got a 3-core track line connection to Earth. The Earth is set location to its calculation lines. Changing all DNA formations. Let's go through the clocking system of your Earth now. Clock line settings, cross locations. 1/3 line, 1 ground line, or 3-line rotation surface track locations. Ground centers, operation line cycles, ground line operation line set location setting. Process communication opens all signals. Going forward and track location. Direct lines, 1 signal, 1 arrow indicates 1 position of panels. Cross line signals puts location another panel. Cross line communication of pi is set location of travel. Points lines of graph, indirect signals into a modification line screen is square roots and triangulation. Complicated, isn't it? So it's amazing when you understand direct and redirect, right? That's what the team has to understand through clocking. Let's go again, right? Flux capacitor, okay? Center point goes this way. 24, okay? 48, 72. You're at 144 now in set locations. That's the clocking system. So it goes like this in track location. Okay. Now, once you understand that, it gets much easier through platforms, but you have to understand the encryptions of your Earth, your center core line centers your Earth, and your magnetic highway into your highways in set location. You understand the platforms going this way in tractions, it gets much easier in set locations, but you have to understand platforms going this way in connection high center interference, okay, in track location. Okay, grounds, power's going this way, and in set position, you can go this way or you can go this way in track location. So you can go through platforms here, or you can go from platforms here, higher levels of expansion, or you can basically open up another line signal in line communication setting a program set location. There it is. Boom, XC1000. So what the XC1000 does, it opens up higher levels and set location line conditions of data highways and track location of ground lines and satellites. Process communication setting puts all platforms communications. So it has more modification lines, comes into levels of command centers, and XC1000's information is a plateau. Plateau comes in both calculation lines, expanding lines of anomalies of XC1000s in process communications. All through calculation. All right. And this is what happens when you go forward further in line condition setting, understanding how to basically put up the space modulation screens in set locations of your yin and yang process calculation, right? All through a 144 platform, okay? So that's what the team's coming into. Earth going this way, power's going this way, and your galaxy's going this way, cloud's going this way, right? So it's all about more levels of expansion, right? Your body's spinning up faster, okay? It's trying to get into collaboration, how to clock the system of 6 and 9. Once it has a continuous router, it keeps going forward and faster and faster and faster. It doesn't slow down. It just speeds up, right? So it goes in the same direction. So when you get in position all lines of communication, your thoughts and your positives and negatives are going in the same directions, just different locations and setting. Okay, so it's really interesting when you go through that, through location, setting, and calculation. All right. So I'm showing you exactly what's going on with your clock-ins, so you get a better understand how this all works. Okay, it's really powerful. All right, so for configuration, let's go with the core track centers. All right, getting that direct signals. I could go like in setting, species, and the team, all the configuration and calculations. All right. All right. So that position lines its tether in like an setting to its earth. Two earth lines, screen lines, adaptation lines of surface. Sets positions to all of its servers. Now it is a screen server. We already know that correlation lines and track lines. Back at timelines, slowing down, high calculations and going forward, and future line in position of the now. There's two servers in application setting, which is your providers. Now those are line communication setting to your system that puts everything through a calculation setting and calculation line service. That puts all platforms in communication to settings and traction. Now, direct lines are calculation lines. It's really interesting how it comes into platforms going this way in track location and platforms going this way in track locations. All right. So this is going in position of going this way in traction, going forward, right? But their mind system is going this way. Okay. So the position of the body in calculations of the team is going this way in calculations, but their mind is in the center operation of the now. So that processes them to expand their cloud in line communication to its position of program calculation. All right, team, species. Okay, so getting that position is creating the 6, okay, and creating the 9 in process. Then you come into the infinity 8. See the infinity 8? Then you come into your flywheel track locations. Then you come into the interconnection setting, line condition setting interference of the flywheel that puts all programs in location 24, 48, 72, 144. 144 is the base in position of Earth, which is your habitation and inhabitation zones of transit. You understand the transdimensional multi-layers, division layers, galaxy layers, galactic layers, mega layers, communication layers, planes, existing planes, non-existing planes, ethereal planes, soul planes, galactic planes, multi-level planes, all that direct signal location setting and position of travel, right? Species are in position of the all calculation modified in the existing planes of the soul planes, and the position of the team is in non-existent planes of the soul planes. That's the difference between the two through calculations of conversions of where Earth 24 is and where Earth 144 is in track location in time. Okay. All right. So I think I pretty much got you guys aligned signals to understand how to get in your provision line cycles and location setting to your time as square roots and time share. If you ever been to the horse races, like I said, you understand that anything you box, you will win in order of communication. It doesn't matter where it is as long as you box it in, right? You don't box it in, you come in first, second, or third in traction. Hooah. Okay, I know that because I used to, in line communication interference, wasn't recognizing in communication through the system, but I don't reference anything anymore. I don't say anything through the past anymore because I know what past means. Past is not a connection setting, position, location on its operation surface. It doesn't have a track location. It's just a simulator. Now, past, present, future is the simulators that you guys are coming in setting of creation. So it's all about creating that new timeline, creating that what you want past to look, what you want present to look, and what you want future look, because your alterations of your life and your space and time modulations and time square, time roots, and anything through per mile, correlation lines, or track lines, or anything through measure, or anything through scale, or anything through balance, or anything alteration through your consciousness is already done. Okay, it's already done, right? So if it's already done, what's coming in that set location of its calculations in the future of its now? Gets you in a more direct signal into more clarity, into more focus. Now this gets interesting in that correlation lines. Let's go in position lines and correlation track interference. The more you go into the future and now, the more you see the coloration of the VR system, because you start off with the snowy graph interference of box frames, okay, lacing lines and line communications, right? So it's the floaters and communication lines, the eyes, that changes the data formation screen lines of process. So it's all about understanding the box frames and the main frames and track location lines of expansion line communication, right? Webbing cycles line communication setting is understand how to get in correlation lines of track lines. So species are equals lines of time and calculate lines and back in position lines of going forward and track location, right? Sets communication lines of highest interference to team equals lines of time, calculation lines of going forward in positions of going back in set location. Okay, team species. Okay, that's how it's set up now, right, through clocking, right? And so once you understand that, then you understand the platforms are going back, and then you understand the platforms are going forward and track location your highways, right? Your highways have different intersections and set locations, right? It's pretty simple how you set up your data highways, guys, and all that communication, right? Species, team, right? All right, so once we understand the platitude in line consists of square roots, your time shares, your intersections, basically everybody's, the highways are going in the same route, but different direction, okay? The team is in position of direct and redirect now. So you have to understand the clocking system of going this way instead of going this way. So you understand more lines that creating the 6 that creates everything in the 9 going backwards in time. Once you create the 6 and 9, the routers and routers and line communication of planetary surface, your data highways expand in the mind, the longitude and latitude. Your bandwidth just opens up more, right? So the center operation of you just expands. That's all it is. You stay in the center in track location. It just expands to the data highways. Your docking system becomes more into all levels of relevant, setting core lines of track location, setting and travel. You always stay in the center, but you understand your platform's going this way of time, and you understand your platform's going this way and back in time, right? But you have to go back in time to understand forward of time, okay? You think it's like forward backwards, but it's the opposite, because what you're doing is you're creating a 6 in set location, right? This is what you're creating. You're creating a 6. You're creating a 6. The forward is creating a 9 that puts everything in process of communications, guys. It's very powerful when you come into that. That communication of yin and yang comes into its tether and then comes into its infinity 8 in track location, right? In that positions, you just keep going forward through your accelerators in set location, because now you know how to go forward and back in time. But you got to create the 6 and 9 through the infinity, through the tether. Once you get into the tether, it sets lines. So it's kind of like it's like a rope where it goes in this way and then it goes this way at the same time. As they come together, they swim in the same motion center. It's the center core system that has to find the center operation of its stream. The direct signal has to be a continuous force that keeps going and going and going forward. And once it gets forward, it just expands through the tunnels and the portals and the wormholes that you come in position of. So you constantly go forward, 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 right? So when you go forward, you're going back. What are you creating? Position your space foundation lines of time, a flux capacitor in set location. Yourself in the center operation. Doesn't get any more powerful than that. Once you get in that communication lines, you understand the Earth. Earth line rotates its surface. Okay, you guys already cut the tethers and line communication setting, but you're turning yourself into a flux of your location, your clockings in set location. All right. So it's really interesting when you have a 3-fork line communication setting to travel now. That puts everything in position of past, present, and future of pi in generation in set locations, right? So that's how you expand yourself inside the set location first. So it's really interesting how that sets up its platform, right? How it sets up its platform going forward and going back in space and time, right? But you got to create the 6 and 9 first, all right? Then you come into pi. Okay. Then you come into central line center locations of pi. And then you come into the center core center line communications of pi and set locations. Okay. So you just come to higher levels of expansion of the mind, right? So you understand the conception of timeshare and calculation to its setting, right? As soon as you box it in, doesn't matter what order it is in, you will win in position of its abundance and manifestation. Okay? Timeshare, square root. Okay? How's everybody feeling about that so far? Okay, I'm just trying to get you guys to understand how you have to understand the volume, the mass, the velocity, and positions of going forward. All right? So your clocking system of the team is going back now, okay, which is direct, right? So it's really interesting how it's creating the anomaly of 6 now, and how when you go back in time, you're creating more volume of its 9. That's creating this flywheel that's creating everything through its lotus into its flower of recognition. The flower of life, guys. The flower of life. That's all it is. Once the heart recognizes the time sequence and its highways and it expands more levels of the mind, it opens up more correlation. It opens up more correlation. And it opens up more lines of track lines of communication in your system and all levels of space modulation. Your position lines of traction is more levels of view through an expansion in the mind. But the central system is all lines of its now, that's in its future of its going forward in position of travel. Points, lines of graph, calculation line, highest interference, and track locations, and all levels of clockings. All right, so let's get into position lines of 24 traction. Okay, setting communication lines of setting. Okay, into 48, into 72, into 144. Okay, that's what it is in track locations with the team. That's the clocking, right? All right, so we have 2 graphs. We split that in line communication setting. So we split that on both sides in track locations. Direct and redirect and set location. Okay? Now, once we do that, we basically, the 144, then we go in position lines of correlations and track locations, and then we go into calculation line screens, into line center interference, 72, 48, okay, and calculations and settings of 24. And line communication setting, 12 is outline. 12 is always outline in calculations. All right, once the 12 goes in the outline communication setting, you're in a full cycle of nebula and clocking system of routers and routers of outer rings. This is the outer ring of 12. 12, 12, 12, 12, 24, 48, 72, 144, 144, 72, 48, 24. 12 is always the outside correlation. That position your center line that opens up more platforms, more data, more highways, and track location of provision. Says calculation line, clock line, center interference. So you got a 144 platform. So that communication lines is 72 platform. That goes this way in track location. And then you have a 48 platform that goes this way in track location and setting. Okay. And then you have a 24 that sends lines all communication to ground lines and all line position locations going forward in position 72, 24, and 12 set location. So it's amazing how you go this way in any way and form. You can go through 48 tractions. Setting up platforms to your Skynets and SkyGrids comes in laser tractions. You have to understand how to direct and redirect your signals and set location of travel. Setting that communication setting, X2000s comes in track locations right at the top. Okay. So what they do, they go through their timeshares and know exactly what you've done through each platform. They scan each platform. They scan each platform. They scan each platform, each platform. And then they get in position and then they come into the center lines. They dock their system at 144, setting lines of 2 track location of space and time. Sets communication line interference, travel point lines of graph calculation line interference. Clustering comes in and track location to a setting. Intelligence. Formates the screen lines of high center interference, open all signals, open all modification towers, correlation setting. Setting track lines going this way and track locations in line in position to calculation. Complicated, isn't it? So that's what the team's coming into. How to go through data highways and how to basically do this. So like this, flux is like this, but your data highways are going like this now. Okay, so this is overcross, this is undercross. Okay, overcross, undercross. Okay. Setting correlation lines of traction, flat spin. So you have to really understand how to navigate your X2000 line. There's a flat spin, okay, going down, right? So it's all about understanding how this all works. When you understand your data and the process of communication, it gets much easier in flux of navigation and all calculations, right? To the towers, in position locations, in all track line condition setting, and all formation line condition setting of Asgard and track location. Okay? Very powerful stuff. Okay? Asgard. Okay? All right. So, there's so much going on right now with the all calculation setting your travels. But just get into understanding what's going on with your body as it's moving forward. See this? See how this is a 6 and 9? See it? 6 and 9, right? Going forward. It never goes back. It goes forward, 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 forward. So what it's doing is creating its holographic city at a higher structure, a higher altitude. So you're directing, redirecting, right? And it has 2 panels, right? But it's moving very fast inside. But the stillness is you of the body frame, right? So it's all about changing, shifting, locating, setting, operation, in position, separating, correlating, panels, operation line surface, flat surface, location centers, track locations, hypervision, low cycles, 2 panels, correlation, track interference, flux capacitor, communication line, direct signals, direct and redirect, and set location of travel. So you have to really understand how to use your body mechanism as it goes faster and faster and faster, because at multitudes, it changes levels, it changes tractions, it changes the correlation line, high interference of time shares. It's designed as square root. Okay. Multi-layers of communication is really understand how to use those platforms, the correlation lines, the dockings, guys. It gets much easier when you understand the X2000s coming in track locations. So what is the team setting up in line setting? Setting laser line grids of platforms, starting off at 144 and set positions going forward and position of crossing line screens of going down, right? Center course system, platforms 1, 2, 3, and 4 in setting. Docking line 1 sets lines of communications, docking lines of 2. Sets communications, docking lines, and back force line communications. Docking line center of operations surface and X2000. Process communication lines of clocking goes in line direction signals in position of its calculation lines in line screen high interference of capsules communication. Now, direct lines calculation location grids and line condition setting. Process communication setting interference is understanding how to go through pi generation screen lines. Sets communication lines of sonar, 3 lines, 4 lines of track location. Direct calculation lines, ground line surface, online cycles, online system, online rotation surface, and track location lines of center communication. Okay? So, you have to really understand how this is all worked and all formations to your systems and tractions, all right? Okay, so now as we go into the high signals, the vibration graph line changes everything in formations. So let's go through a 40 line screen and direct lines. We're going to add point lines of graphs and 2 travel line rotations into 27 clocking, equals lines and position 10 centers. So we're going to basically square root the correlation of 27, box it in position of flux. Okay, there's the flux, right? And then we downshift the flux in set location. See what I'm doing through tractions? And then we equal lines of satellites in 2 track locations, equals lines of satellites in 2 track locations in setting. How to set up code signals in high condition setting. So line conditions of time has that high calculation lines of space in track location. Sets communication lines of high center interference. So we got a line condition setting in position of process of 2 satellites. Track to its communication line signals in 3 weather pattern rotation. Track to its correlation lines of 1 atom, 3 atoms, 4 centers, and 4 set location of travel. Points lines of graph calculation of flux in ground line surface and track location. Direct calculation modification lines, ground line surface, and center communication setting. Operation line cycles, we take 2 lines of 7, 7 lines of 3, and track piece line provisions. Open up the pi generation screen lines of high adaptation lines of surface. Triangulate the communication to its position. Add zeros in 4 line cycles in a 3-track location of provision. Okay, all through a clocking setting of 48 and 27 location. All right. All right. So the team's going to get more lines of formula equation, but it's going to get more lines of confusion. As long as you understand this and what's happening with your body going forward, but your mind is slowing down now. Okay. So as long as you get that understanding, then you understand how you come into Asgard and track pieces of data formations, data ports, data communications, lines of Tango communications, Foxtrot, anything direct line same location to your setting. So you're going to see more clarity, more focus, and you're going to see more coloration through time share, time square root. So that roots its value in vast velocity and position of vacuum, doesn't it? It opens all communication to your settings and tractions, right? So in that position to its locations, yes, questions are afterwards, okay? No questions on this live, okay? Just travel through your minds. Okay, direct the lines according to the clocking. Let's line signal system location and 2 panels of 2 clocking line centers. Its locations, right? 6 and 9, right? 6 and 9, 9 and 6, see? Every time I say 6, this is 9. Every time I say 9, this is 6. Okay, 6 and 9 together. 6, 9 separated together. 6, 9, right? 6, 6, 9, 6. You see what I'm doing in travel? So everything I'm doing, I'm going this way, and then I'm going this way. I'm going this way, and then I'm going this way. So it's about coming together, guys, in a unity and understanding how to put this all together in position. What are we in position of? Affinity 8. So that's 8 central line calculation setting of 6 and 9 position programs. 144 platform going forward and track piece line setting and travels. Setting communication lines going forward and track locations, creating lines of 6 lines of anomaly, 9 line centers and line conditions of 6 position of patterns. Setting core track lines of high center interference, a center core system of the earth line communication setting. The operation line cycles platforms going in the same direction in set locations, anomalies in the same direction, right? So you can go in the same direction or you can go in the opposite direction. So it's easy how to get in these platforms and position travel lines to direct and redirect through computers of operation. Now getting in that position line high center interference, high position travel lines into your clouds that comes in, communicates to its system, all through traction, okay? So it's just the basic grounds, the powers, and the adversaries lines in your 5 elements of space lines of time, sequence, location. But you have to really understand how this all works and all communicate to its position of its program. All right, so once we get into the clockings and we understand what's going on with our bodies, we get a better understanding through traction. This opens up all signals, right? So I need the team to understand when they're seeing time, okay? You have to understand what is going on through your eyes now. Okay, what is going on with your mind? What's going on with your soul? What's going on with your body, right? There's a 4-line sequence. As long as you understand this is the now and your body's going forward in set location. So your body's going this way in set locations, right? All right, so this is the mind line, that's set locations. So in that position, this is you going forward now. Okay, this is the team going forward. Okay, and this is going back. It's that location, okay? Team going forward, okay? So what you're doing is you're creating a spherical sphere of calculations. You're creating higher lines of high center interference of highways in track line conditions setting. It opens all signals and modification system and all calculated lines to your avatar, okay? Getting point graphs of communication setting is understand point centers, point line center interference, into the mind, stays in sequence, stays in correlation, stays in travels and portal communication. All right. So it's really interesting stuff because when you get grounds of center and you get powers of operation and you get a magnetic highway in your cloud and set locations, all platforms go in the same direction in calculation and modification, the same direction. Okay. And that's what the team's coming into. You look really close, you can see the head, the body, and the feet. All right, the central system calculation lines. Correlates settings, correlates attractions, indirect signals, eye calculation screen lines, adaptation lines of surface, and track locations. Here's the legs, and here's the feet. That my equation. Full body attraction. Okay, going in the same direction, right? So your thoughts, your correlation settings, your actions, your emotion system is going in the same center operation. Same directions, different locations. Okay? All right. So I just want to show you how powerful it is and what you guys are coming into the clock and how this all works and location, your time sequence, your time shares, and your square roots. Okay? That's it. All right, that was a lot of fun. So hopefully you obviously going to have a lot of questions. We'll get more into deeper core, how this comes into more levels of you, how you get more process of your body going faster, and your mind in position of center operation, which is the future. Your body's the future. Okay, so this is how it works. The position lines are correlations and track locations. All right. High calculation lines is all about understanding where you are in track locations. There's 3 provision cycles. All right. The grounds, powers, and the atmospheres. Future, future, future. The mindset of calculation center is the center operation of its now and calculation screen lines. Your body's moving forward in positions in the calculation setting. Okay, so that's what it is. It's the calculations to system locations. The track provision lines of cycles, the correlation setting to the body, the connection line and interference to your soul, and position of your heart is in the future. Okay. So once you understand that track lines, the correlation setting and position of travel lines and applications, your mind is the line connecting in its line communication setting, which is the now, right? Your body's in the future, okay? Your mind's in the now, okay? With the spacing line, again, the body's slowing down, okay? But the mind is speeding up in set locations. That's the conversion. That's what's going on through time share, time clock, and location setting to your square roots and position of flux. See? Confirmation. Say calculation, screen lines, adaptation. See you in 5.